All right, now let's get analysis on several political matters that we are currently tracking for you. We're now joined by political analyst Magic Nkhwashu on the line. Mr. Nkhwashu, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's first talk about, just some of the utterances that were made by President Cyril Ramaphosa in the National Assembly, today. He touched on a number of important issues, but also touching on the long-standing lifestyle audits that the DA and other political parties have been calling for. He says this has not yet been done, but promising that this will be done as soon as possible, saying that it will also be extended, to other officials. Just your take on what he had to say.
Thanks, Onati, and good afternoon to the viewers. Indeed, the president has promised to address the things as outlined in the Q&A that he was addressing in Parliament this afternoon. It's more of the delays that the president always does, applying his mind, which obviously is detriment to the functioning of Parliament, as well as how things should be happening in Parliament and addressing societal issues.
Another thing that he also raised is, of course, the consistent attacks on the judiciary by other, various, bodies. Him saying that, of course, that the protection of the judiciary must happen, saying that attacks on the judiciary which go beyond reasonable criticism undermine the judiciary. And in fact, he was challenged on this point, saying that while government consistently undermines the judiciary by not implementing just some of the orders that we are hearing in various courts in the country.
You find that the judiciary is actually being undermined by mainly people who are serving in his own cabinet. He also spoke about the need for all the three spheres of the state to continually engage and have a regular engagement so that it can be seen as a properly functioning state that is able to be an oiled machine that talks to each other. So it was after Mr. Singh from the IFP actually posed a question in this regard.
And just talking about the ANC and the cadre deployment, they've responded, of course, to that court ruling yesterday, saying that it's noted the outcome of the Supreme Court of Appeal and will take time to consider its new legal route. I mean, we know, of course, the court said that there is no option to appeal in this case, and also giving them 5 days to hand over all the reports and those records, as it relates to what the DA has asked for, giving them 5 days. Just your reaction to this loss and what this means for the ANC, essentially.
They have no choice. The only option that is left is if they want to take it to the Constitutional Court. But in terms of the PAIA, where is the Promotion of Information Act, they have to provide that information. The court, the SCA, has ruled in that regard. Within 5 days, if they can't deliver that information as required by the DA, the only option that is left for them is to take the matter to the Constitutional Court.
And failing which, what does this then mean, for the ANC, particularly as we know we're going to the general elections next year?
It's actually the main reason why they don't want to divulge such information, because as you will realize, cadre deployment has actually destroyed our country in terms of the corruption that has happened in the past 29 years or so. It is actually that very reason why ANC doesn't want to divulge such information, particularly since the target is the president, who is leading the ANC towards these elections that is coming in 10 months' time. So it is for this very reason that they don't want to divulge that information, because it might really show that they are not serving in government for the whole country, but it's only for their own comrades who are benefiting.
And just talking about the DA, of course, they sat on this cadre deployment matter since 2013. Talking about the DA, they've now set the wheels in motion to challenge the South African Reserve Bank. In fact, also the Minister of Finance as the second, applicant in the Phala matter, from the Reserve Bank, the opposition party filing papers in the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria in an application to review the decision of the Reserve Bank. How do you think this is going to play out?
The governor was not convincing when he actually gave a report. Of course, he has indicated that he won't give a full report in terms of this matter. So it is possible that they might go all out and then force the Reserve Bank, which seems to be favoring the president, in order to divulge how did they come to that decision, because it would seem that really the president has had, as he has admitted in a way when he addressed a meeting in Polokwane, but also in terms of how the transaction has happened, it would seem that the institutions, even SARS, are not actually coming to the fore in order to actually dispel this myth that the president might have really dealt with the illegal currency of other countries in a wrong way.
And what do you think it means, for the reputation of the bank itself? I mean, a lot of people have pointed out that this is, in fact, a cover-up, especially when you see that, the bank essentially saying that it's that because the Sudanese businessman, Mr. Hazim Mustafa, did not take receipt of the animals that he bought at the farm, the head of the state is cleared of holding and not declaring forex. What does it mean for the reputation of the bank itself, particularly when we are hearing of these cover-up allegations?
It doesn't augur well, particularly to the governor, who seems to be dwelling into the politics instead of being focused on the Reserve Bank. Others are already saying that it would seem that he would want to be the next finance minister, like we know, like it happened with Tito Mboweni, who was a reserve governor, then he became a finance minister. So the governor is really dwelling into the politics, which is not good for our country, which is faced by a lot of challenges, especially when it comes to the economy.
And just as we wrap up this interview, Mr. Nkhwashu, I'd like your, just your views on what we saw being displayed this morning with the suspended public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, her going to work and her interpretation of the president's, suspension letter, saying essentially that once the Section 194 committee proceedings have been finalized, she can then proceed to go to work. The presidency saying that, President Cyril Ramaphosa informed the suspended public protector yesterday that her intention to return to work was misconceived. What do we make of what was playing out there?
I think with Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane is the last kick of a dying animal. We know that a term of office will end next month. We know that Parliament is going to vote on this next week. And it would seem now with the recommendations from the Section 194 committee, it's a done deal. It's only few political parties like the EFF, the ATM, who are in favor of her, but it would seem that the majority have actually found her not to be competent in a job. So it's almost like a done deal. When Parliament votes next week, it will be a sealed fate for her. So it's just the last kick of a dying animal, if I can put it that way.